An all-new Eye on the Bay starts now in HD.
Welcome to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney, and tonight CBS 5 opens the Video Vault. From San Francisco's first television station, a special Eye on the Bay. Since the day we signed on in 1948, we've amassed a huge collection of film and video. From Martin Luther King.
No longer must we be ashamed of being black.
To Jerry Brown.
I certainly don't control the legislature.
To Ronald Reagan.
Nancy, I'm still going to settle for the point after touchdown.
Governor Brown.
Thousands of feet of historic film that aired once and has never seen the light of a television set since, until tonight. We'll see comedian Jim Carrey in an early TV appearance.
I think you're starting to get a little bit personal now.
Ross McGowan himself returns to CBS after a 20-year absence. And we'll visit with this legendary broadcast journalist.
Remember, I'm a walking history book.
But we begin at the innocuous corner of 9th and Clement in San Francisco. Now, at this intersection, there's a See's Candy, a Walgreens, a Hamburger Haven, and what is now a Bank of the West. But that used to be a Bank of America, and it was the scene of a notorious and historic armed robbery gone terribly wrong. It was July 4th, 1968.
This isn't exactly an ordinary bank robbery. The culprit is Woody Allen. He's filming a movie here in San Francisco.
Oh, I see. This is a holdup.
Yes.
Go on, take the money and run.
It was Woody Allen's second film as a director and as a star. They had $1.5 million budget to shoot in and around San Francisco.
Why did you pick this branch of the Bank of America to spend all day on the 4th of July for the scene?
We had to try and get into a bank on a day that it was closed. Otherwise, if we tried to rob the bank on a regular business day, there would be too many customers here.
The plot centers around Virgil, who can't quite afford a new girlfriend.
Destitute and in love, Virgil attempts to change his life with one bold stroke.
That's when this bank has its moment of fame.
This is not the bank that I get the money out of. This is just a practice.
Can't you read that? I am pointing a gun at you.
That looks like gub. That doesn't look like gun.
No, it's gun.
No, that's gub.
Before I actually rob the bank, I practice on several banks.
I see. All in San Francisco?
Yes, they'll all be in San Francisco. I'll be robbing all the major Bank of Americas in San Francisco.
Hey, I'm pointing a gun at you.
Gun?
That's G-U-N.
Well, that's
gun.
a B. That's gub.
Is it a fumble job?
Oh no, I robbed the bank and get away with the money.
Well, look, why don't I give you a call in about 10 years?
They also shot at San Quentin, and from here, Woody Allen would go on to direct 45 more films. But what about this man?
If it took every bank robber the time it's taken Woody Allen to knock off this bank, every bank depositor's money certainly would be safe.
What about Ed Arno, international correspondent for NBC, KPIX reporter? Whatever became of him? Yes! After an absence of 30 years... Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Arno!
That's me.
We found him!
Wasn't much of a find.
Veteran colleagues hadn't seen him in ages.
Great to see you. Man, you're doing great. You're still traveling and writing?
Ed Arno is still going strong, writing for several East Bay newspapers. You're still a journalist.
I'm back to where I started, an ink-stained wretch.
Ed, it is so great to have you back at KPIX.
It brings back a few memories.
Well, that's what we're going to do right now. I want to see if this kindles a memory. Watch.
This isn't exactly an ordinary bank robbery. The culprit is Woody Allen. He's filming a movie here in San Francisco.
I remember that well.
You recognize this guy?
Vaguely.
Ed covered everything from film shoots.
Thank you very much. I'll be around
to Jerry Brown's campaign for the presidency.
This brown bag rally got a great break from the weather.
I think if I had to do it all over again, I would have talked more about my record.
To Pat Brown's race for governor.
The final polls show that it's neck and neck.
But it was Governor Brown's opponent who won that race.
Well, I'll tell you, if he's leading in the polls and I'm leading tomorrow in that poll, I'll settle for that.
When Ronald Reagan announced he was going to run for governor, were you surprised?
You betcha.
Did you think he had a shot?
In politics, everyone has a shot.
He said, what's my opponent been doing? That's me. He says he's been on television and in the movies. And that's true. I've been earning a living.
Those were the great days to be in television news. We were the pioneers, really, of television news that's on the air now. It was fun.
And it's the first time this has been broadcast in more than 40 years.
This is Ed Arno for Eyewitness News at the Bank of America at 9th and Clement.
The great Ed Arno. And in a moment, it was one of the longest-running shows in local television.
Live from San Francisco, it's Channel 5's People Are Talking with Ann Fraser and Ross McGowan.
When we come back, one of its hosts will step back into the People Are Talking studio.
Oh, there's my name.
Jim Carrey. It's spelled right, too.
And we'll get a look at 23-year-old Jim Carrey long before his cable guy days. But first, let's step back into the vault to a street corner in San Francisco on New Year's Eve, 1959, one day before 1960, and see what people were thinking about.
What about New Year's? What does it mean to you this year?
Just a year older. Done many years now.
Well, I'd be thinking about 1960 and hope everybody have a real healthy and happy and prosperous New Year.
I'm going to do better in school.
Stay sober if I can.
Well, I'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada, New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, we're going to spend in Las Vegas, Nevada.
What will you be thinking about?
I'll be thinking about a winner.
Go on, take the money and run. Go on, take the money and run.
Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney in CBS SF's North Studio. And if you were within these walls from 1978 to 1991, you would have been part of a live studio audience and in the presence of two of the greatest television hosts that Bay Area television has ever produced. Ross McGowan and Ann Fraser hosted the afternoon show and People Are Talking for 14 years on Channel 5. Now, the show went off the air almost 20 years ago. And for the first time since then, Ross McGowan returns to the studio that he broadcast from for 14 years. He hasn't been here since.
Wow. Hello?
This may get a little cool.
So that's just the way it is.
Actually, that's the way it was.
Used to be like 100 people who were just cheering madly for Ann and me. 100 people every day would come up the elevators to see People Are Talking. And then for a couple of years, we did a show called The Afternoon Show, which was primarily an entertainment show. We had a live studio orchestra, and we had the biggest names of Hollywood come up.
One amazing example hasn't aired since 1985.
Would you please welcome the multi-talented Jim Carrey.
Remember, this was long before his big comedy hits like The Cable Guy.
Oh, there's my name.
Jim Carrey. It's spelled right, too.
At this moment, he was only 23 years old.
Did you have an idol when you were growing up, an actor that you really emulated?
I loved Jimmy Stewart. I think Jimmy Stewart is the creamiest.
After you.
In the tragic event that you are not familiar with Jimmy Stewart, this is Jimmy Stewart starring in Harvey, playing the character Elwood P. Dowd.
We must be more careful.
He's a man who befriends an invisible 6-foot-tall rabbit.
6 feet 3.5 inches. Now let's stick to the facts.
Jimmy Stewart is so magical, you know. He sees beauty in everything.
That's remarkable. And then I introduced them to Harvey.
You know, a lot of people ask me, they say, Mr. Dowd, How did you first meet Harvey?
Well, anyway, I was walking down along the street, and I heard this voice saying,
"Hello, Mr. Dodds." Well, looked at the lamppost, and there was this 6-foot white rabbit. just sort of standing there, staring at me. He said, "Fred, your friend seems to have had a little too much to drink today." I said, "Yeah, you're right, but you know, you got me at a bit of a disadvantage, you see. You know my name."
and I don't know yours. And right back at me, he said,
"What's your favorite name?" Well, I said, "Harvey."
"Harvey's always been my favorite name."
"Harvey. Harvey's always been my favorite name." And then he said to me, he said, "You know, Mr. Dodds, it's a funny thing. Because my name just happens to be Harvey." Now that's a damn story.
I understand that you can make, like, just face, well, you're doing wonderful, but just faces, you don't even have to say anything, and you can do people like James Dean.
James Dean.
What do you think you're going to be when you really grow up?
I think you're starting to get a little bit personal now.
You had a good time doing this show.
Loved it. I worked at two places in San Francisco, Channel 5 and Channel 2, and both of them treated me so well. And I worked with a great woman.
Oh, what an enthusiastic, familiar group this is.
We were friends from the first time we met. Our personalities hit it off right away. She is a terrific person, and we have spent a lot of time together over the years, and to this day are great friends. 31 years I spent on TV in the Bay Area at two stations, and I was just a lucky guy.
Thank you so much for coming by. It's a real pleasure to finally meet you.
Thank you.
We'll have more from Mr. McGowan in upcoming Vault shows because there are some amazing finds, like a 20-year-old O.J. Simpson, or the night that Dirty Harry had its world premiere on Market Street, complete with a 41-year-old Clint Eastwood. There's Ronald Reagan campaigning for governor of California in 1966, and Jerry Brown when he was Secretary of State in 1970. Back then, he was worried about how much campaigns were costing.
This year, the campaigns in the state are going to cost between $15 and $20 million.
$20 million for all campaigns in California in 1970. $20 million. How about Meg Whitman's $160 million in 2010? And all of these old clips were actually being thrown into dumpsters to save space. I kid you not. Before they were rescued, pulled out, cleaned up, meticulously restored and archived by San Francisco State University's Bay Area Television Archive and its ace archivist, Alex Cherian. Without him, we wouldn't be seeing this.
They used to say it was important for generations to pass down the spoken word to preserve history. But when we moved into the age of moving images, not many people thought about the importance of what this film and video might mean to future generations. Most television stations across the country did away with the thousands of hours of their visual history. For Alex Cherian, every day is a Bay Area history lesson. The thousands of hours of what KPIX saved from the 1950s on is now a rare treasure, a contribution to Bay Area history. It's a rare collection of people and places and stories. And as each frame gets painstakingly remastered, it's put online for everybody to see. We've got a link on our website so you can step back in time and see the Bay of days gone by.
When we come back, can you identify this Bay Area broadcast legend in her first Bay Area television appearance? That's next. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay's Look into the Vault. archives of more than 60 years of broadcasting from the Bay Area's first television station, what we call CBS SF now. I'm Brian Hackney, and we left you with film from New Year's Eve, 1959.
Midnight, I think I'll just be looking back over the previous year to see how far I have gone or how far I haven't gone.
I wish I could get that hat. How about film from New Year's in the year 4655? That's 4655 on the Chinese New Year's calendar, and a march through the Stockton Street Tunnel in 1958. And it was Chinese New Year's 9 years later when San Francisco's Mayor Shelley made what might have been the obvious statement of the year.
The Chinese are a very active and very important part of the life and the culture of San Francisco.
Well, that statement didn't exactly make headlines, but the young reporter covering her first press conference would make history. You recognize her? It was February 9th, 1967. Watch.
Today, Mayor John F. Shelley proclaimed the city's official participation in the celebration as several Miss Chinatown beauty pageant contestants looked on.
There will be lots of
oh my.
in the days ahead here.
This is Belva Davis reporting for KPIX News from Chinatown.
Do you recognize that young
woman?
Ladies and gentlemen, Belva Davis, one of the probably the earliest known report of you on Bay Area television.
That had to be 1967, Brian.
It would have been.
It was also the moment Belva became the first female African-American television reporter in the West.
This has not seen the light of day in 4 decades.
That's really impressive.
Belva's half-century career could fill a book, and it has, in Never in My Wildest Dreams. But getting started was not easy.
I'll tell a secret. I was told by the program manager that I needed to lose 10 pounds before going on the air. And I went on this vicious grapefruit and steak diet.
And Belva's first TV home became KPIX.
That's right. This was it, and boy, had I hit pay dirt.
After all, KPIX was the first TV station on the air in the Bay Area.
In 1948 in San Francisco, newspaper headlines heralded television's arrival.
They want their own union and they're demanding it. And
within 2 decades, Belva would be covering historic figures like Cesar Chavez.
He had a serenity about him that was unexplainable. Do you think these students would have a better chance in an integrated school? Is this at the Kashaya Indian Reservation?
Yes.
In 1968, Robert Kennedy visited Kashia Elementary, 100 miles north of San Francisco.
The senator is chairman of the Senate Subcommittee on Indian Education. He was going up north, up to Wairika, and I asked, could I come along?
So Belva got the interview.
There are obviously fewer and fewer jobs for the unskilled and the untrained. It's almost true now, and certainly it would be true in the 1970s, that a high school diploma is not going to be sufficient. You're going to have a college diploma.
Tomorrow, the senator moves to San Francisco.
She also got a half hour with Kennedy on the helicopter ride to Sonoma.
And it was a very wonderful moment to have with a man this important, and where we just talked about family and kids and life and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's one of my rare moments that I treasure a great deal. Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't all serious stuff.
Opening night at a film festival seems to have little to do with the film that you're showing. Oh, that's a different Belva. But a lot to do with the number of stars and celebrities that you can attract to the event. By then, I guess I'd learned to put on makeup.
By looking at that, do you have any idea what that is?
Of course I know what that is.
You do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I got assigned to the opening of the San Francisco Film Festival.
That's exactly what it was.
Of course.
How do you remember that?
Look, I had to buy a dress for this.
Original coverage of that 1974 film festival hasn't been aired since the night it was first shown.
Gene Stapleton, Goldie Hawn, and Truman Capote with Herb Cain.
And of course,
Belva Davis for Eyewitness News at the San Francisco Film Festival.
I don't know what's ahead for broadcast journalism. But when you see the kind of career that you've had, the past looks mighty nice.
It does, doesn't it?
Belva's book about her career is now out in paperback. She continues her decades-long hosting of This Week in Northern California, and this won't be the last we see of her.
Invite me anytime.
I will.
Remember, I'm a walking history book.
The great Belva Davis. And it's time to close up the vault for the night. We'd like to thank Ross McGowan, Ed Arno, and Belva for stopping by. And if you want more information about anything you've seen during the course of the show, you know what to do. Log on to our website, cbssf.com/Eye on the Bay. We've also got a link to the Bay Area Television archives there. For now, I'm Brian Hackney. Time to say goodnight from CBS. And if you've ever wondered what CBS used to stand for,
this is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.